Welcome to your next DT lesson. So far we've been looking at the different things that we need to consider as designers when we are designing a product. And we're going to look today at a new topic called Ergonomics and Anthropometrics. It is a real difficult thing to say, but it is luckily spelt as it is said. So it's Ergonomics and Anthropometrics. Now, what I want you to do first is to look at the images that are on the screen. We've got a mouse, a computer mouse, we've got a spoon and a fork, we've got a water bottle, we've got a pen and a kind of child's drinking cup. And I'd like you to just think, what do they all have in common? What do they look like? Why are they different to our normal products that we would see? Now you probably thought they all look a bit weird. They're all different, aren't they? They're not the normal products that we would see in the shops or that we would own. But what hopefully you started to think about was that they have all been modified to be a little bit more comfortable or to be used in a different way. And that is what ergonomics is all about. So ergonomics is the science of how humans interact with objects. And that's mainly in DT about how the user or your target audience interacts with the product that you design or you make. It is all about the design for efficiency and for comfort in the working environment. And as designers, we need to consider ergonomics in order to create a good product. If we look at the picture that is on the screen now, the designers who designed the chair and the table have designed with ergonomics in mind. They have thought about how that user, how that lady can be more comfortable when she sat in front of a computer all day. So they've got an adjustable backrest, there's adjustable armrests, there's an adjustable seat height, there's they've thought about the distance between the screen and her face. They've thought about how high the desk needs to be so that her arms are comfortable when she's typing. So ergonomics is the study and the science behind how humans interact with everyday products. When we are designing the product, it should be both comfortable as well as functional. So functional is obviously something that a product needs to be because we need to be able to use it for its desired intention. But when we're using it, we want it to be a comfortable experience for us. Now, we don't just consider how it feels in our hands, but ergonomics is a bit more than that. It's often about the sound and the smell. So if you're using a product every day and you have to open it, or it has a horrible noise that it makes as you use it, and that noise is going to become really annoying, and that's not going to be very comfortable for us to use on a daily basis. Same thing with smell. If, for example, it was a product that needed to keep a smell in, or it had a liquid or it had a substance in it that did smell, we don't want to be smelling that all day, so we want it to be able to block that smell out. So it's all about the function of the product working, but working in a comfortable way for the user. Now we're going to look at this travel coffee mug, which we use a lot. Perhaps you guys don't use it quite so much now, but hopefully you will do. And it's a way of transporting hot liquid. And it's obviously a sustainable method because it means we don't have to use plastic because we reuse this mug over and over again. But this mug has been designed with ergonomics in mind. And I'd like you to think now, please. You can talk with the person next to you. What do you think the designer has considered when they've designed this in order for the user to have a comfortable as well as functional experience? Now, I've obviously got the arrows on there, which were my little hints. If we look at the handle first, the handle has been designed so that it's got little indentations where your fingers can go. So that's going to help your grip around the handle, and it's going to help make sure that you can grip it firmly and that you're hopefully not going to drop it. The shape of the mug itself has been tapered in towards the bottom so that then your hand, or the average human hand, can fit around it comfortably so that you can hold it in that way as well. The material used is a kind of a soft plastic, so it's going to be soft to the touch, it's going to be smooth, so it won't cause any irritation to our hands. But it's also, plastic is a really good material because it won't get too hot. Obviously the whole mug is designed to keep the contents hot, but we don't want to be holding the mug and getting a hot hand because that's not going to be very safe. And then the arrow at the top is kind of pointing to the mouthpiece. Now that mouthpiece, when we drink from the cup, we want that to be a comfortable experience. We don't want it to be difficult. We want to be able to get the liquid out easily, and we want it to feel nice on our mouths so that we can keep drinking it and keep using the product, and we can use it for its desired function. Now that is all ergonomics is. It's about how we design something with a little bit of thought about how it's going to be comfortable for the user. Now, what goes hand in hand with ergonomics is Anthropometrics. Now, this is a set of human measurements. Someone out there, or a group of people, have measured hundreds and thousands of humans, and they have taken the average the measurements of their body. Now, they've got things like the height, weight, length, your angle of reach. So if you think about your arm and you move it, what's the angle that your arm can move? And it's all about collecting a lot of data so that then they can take the average from that data. Now, why is that important? Well, it's important for a lot of reasons, and the reason it goes with ergonomics is because in order to design something that will be more comfortable for a human, we need to know how big that human is. Now, if you were designing for one particular person, you would take their measurements and you would use those. But when we design a product, we want as many people to be able to use it as possible. So therefore we take the average measurements. Now I've got 3 images on the screen there. I want you to think about what measurements, what specific human measurements would be needed when designing these products. So you've got the coffee cup, you've got the front door. What measurements do we need to know about a human in order to get the right size door? And you've got a bed. So on your own or with the person next to you, I'd like you to have a think about that now, please, and try and come up with 2 human measurements for each of those 3 products. So for the coffee cup, we would need to know how big the average human mouth is, because we need to know how big we need to make that opening for the liquid to come out. We would need to know how big the average human hand is so that we can design the handle to be the right width. We'd need to know how, again, the kind of hand span of a human so that a hand could get round the cup and hold it from the bottom. For the door, we'd need to know the average height of a human. We'd need to know the width as well. And the same really for the bed. But what we might need to consider is if you sit on the bed with your legs on the floor, what is that measurement there for your legs, that kind of seated measurement? Now, we obviously need to know, if you're thinking about the door in particular, then the average human, yep, that would be a great thing to think about. The average human would want to be able to get through that door. However, not everyone is average. You know me, I'm a small human. You have tall humans. Now, if they design the door for the average human, then that means that tall people would have to stoop, which isn't ideal. It's not going to make that much difference to a small person. But for a door, you're going to need to think about what is the highest or the tallest human that's going to need to go through that door. So often it's not always the average. Sometimes you would take the top % of the data in order to design your product. Now, what I'm going to leave you with is you're going to do a main activity now, and you're going to try to redesign this chair to make it more ergonomic. How can you make that chair more comfortable for someone to use as an office chair? So they would be using it every day to work, they would have it up against a desk. How can you make that chair more comfortable for the user? And I want you to think as well and annotate it to say what anthropometric data you would need in order to design the chair effectively. So what human measurements would you need?